All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Mets Weekly Podcast. As today we are live at this very moment on YouTube and on X to recap the Mets versus Athletics series, as well as all the latest news and rumors in Mets land. But before we get into that, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel for new episodes of our show that will now be recorded live after every series of games during the regular season. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation in the future, make sure to turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. For those of you in the live chat right now, we love reading your comments, your questions, your concerns, all of that great stuff regarding the team at the very moment. If you feel like you're being ignored, you're not being ignored. You're just being starred throughout the show, and we will try to pull up as many as we can to keep the flow of the conversation going, as well as make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok for Frank's instant post-game reactions following every single regular season game, titled The Mets Frankly Postgame. And for audio listeners, make sure to follow us on all your favorite listening platforms to not miss the audio version of new episodes that go up at 9 a.m. the following day. Also, make sure to give us a 5-star review. It'll be greatly appreciated. So, without further ado, let's get into episode number 126. Frank, you're here fresh off of a Mets Frankly postgame, which I'm pretty sure you did an hour ago. And we're hopping right in here, obviously with the 4 o'clock start, not really much gap in between the end of the game into our stream. So we kind of had to go a little bit more fast track. But other than that, we are still here, grinding it out as per usual throughout the regular season. Another series win. That's great, but plenty to talk about.
Yes, I mean, first place with the best run differential in the National League East. So, I mean, that's what you want to see. The way they're going about it, what I will say is at least it's consistent. I feel like maybe the things that were good are still good and the things that were bad are still bad. So at least you're kind of really just getting a sense of like what the team might be first 15 games in. And we've seen a lot of the same, but we still know that they're still capable of better. There are certain guys in particular that we are still waiting on to really do what they're capable of. So I feel like that's the thing that you're still wanting to see, you're waiting to see it and hoping to see it as soon as possible, because once you do that, these games won't feel so close, so stressful, and you'll have a much more comfortable victories and not having to rely on the Athletics losing the ball in the sun and not being able to field ground balls and balking and just all the things that went on this afternoon/evening. So it has been an interesting start to the season, but now they go into a very interesting stretch schedule-wise. Not so much the teams that they're facing, but the travel and just the amount of days that they're playing consecutively. So this is going to be a big one. We're going to get into it. So, these are all just early tests to see how this team holds up.
Yeah, obviously we know that the Mets have been known to be good starters or bad starters in the recent years. So if they're going to get the bad out of the way, I'd much rather have them do it in April than in July or August, obviously. There's obviously a lot of things that they need to break down. There's a lot of things that need to be solved eventually as the season goes on. We know that throughout 162 games, you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to win them all. But there really has been some stuff that has looked concerning somewhat, just considering just the overall consistency of the offense we've looked at. We know that there's been a constant trend throughout April of, starters struggling to get through 5 innings, struggling to get through 6 innings, which again, this is the beginning of the season. But again, I would really like to see a good solid series in April to see something promising, because I know that, especially with this offense, we know how much better it could be, especially after what you're seeing on paper. We know that it's going to even out. We'll get into that of, what is to come and what could possibly be to come with this offense, because as of right now, it's definitely been very tedious for the offense. And I think that right now, at some point, we're going to have to point out some combination that works or some kind of approach that works, because there's a lot of constantly, no matter if they are 10-5 or not, there is a lot of guessing up there. And it really is not looking like some of these guys are comfortable. And they've gotten a decent amount of plate appearances as to where we're getting to the point of, the stronger half of April where, they got to start picking this up, because we're starting to see a lot of these tendencies continue to fall, into place, where it's just they're stranding a lot of runners. There's a lot of unproductive innings, unproductive ABs, and there's going to be matchups where you're going to have to take advantage of bad pitches, because you're not going to be able to stare at that many. So again, it's just a very tedious start to this season, a 10-5 that is been rough to watch, to be honest, because it hasn't been fluent baseball. But hopefully they can eventually get it together. But I'm still not really enjoying watching these games yet. There has been a lot of parts you got to piece together in order for them to win these games. And knowing that there's 162 games in a season, it's exhausting through for the first 15, feeling like, an entire 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, it is frustrating because you have these golden opportunities. You'll have runners in scoring position, leadoff man gets on, an error happens in the field. Like, you have like so many things that go your way, yet they're still not able to capitalize. And it's really been a team-wide affair. I mean, that's the thing that's frustrating too, is that like most of these guys are just not hitting well with runners in scoring position. And it's just so interesting that we've talked about it, but this Mets offense is really 0 or 100. I mean, that's kind of the way it goes. It's like you're either going to get very few runs or a lot of runs. Like they put up like 10 and then 3 and then 2 and then 10, 8. Like it's just like it's all over the place on a day-to-day basis, and it's just not consistent. And it's more so like if they just get a couple of hits with runners in score position, they'll be fine, because they get so many opportunities. Like they get the guys on, they just can't get them in. And it's kind of similar to what we talked about before of, they draw walks, but then they don't steal or they don't bunt, or it's just, base to base, station to station. And it looked like they were finally going to do it correctly today when Acuna drops down a bunt, and it would have worked if Tyrone Taylor slid into second base. And Acuna ended up scoring later on anyway, but it was like, at least they tried something, and the game wasn't out of reach yet. So I liked that approach there, because you have Taylor with speed and you have Acuna with speed, and it totally would have worked if you just had Taylor slide. So it's like, at least we're starting to see some new things as far as finding other ways to generate offense. But for the most part, it has been frustrating, because that guys that have some kind of speed tools, but Nimmo and then Marte, with the condition of their health, neither one of them is really trying to steal bases. So it's like, even some of the guys you have that do have speed, they're not really going to be using it much. So that's where it does get, you're in a tough spot. And I wonder that if the Mets philosophy, I mean, this is just a theory I have, don't have Lindor steal with Soto up at the plate, because you don't want to waste the opportunity for Soto to drive in a run. Because I've just found it very interesting that I feel like Lindor, he's getting off first base a lot. I feel like he could go more. He hasn't. And Soto in this series in particular was hitting the ball on the ground a ton. Yeah. And then after, Pete was hitting the ball on the ground. So it's like Lindor could have wiped out some of those double plays if he stole a base or two. So I found that very interesting. I feel like, because he's a 30-30 guy. But I just feel like with Soto, they're like, maybe it's not worth the risk, because with Soto and Pete, they're both capable of having just so much power. You don't need to steal bases, but that's just one of the things that I've been really paying a close eye on.
Yeah, I think that they're really, it's just the lack of consistency that really just spooks me with this offense, and it always has been, of, grabbing their footing in any way that they can, like they did last year. But at some points, there just really was a very streaky point of consistency. And even though they scored 8 runs in this final game today, again, most of it was, taking advantage of the team's miscues. And again, that is fine. They were still able to do that. But again, before that, it can't go unignored that they were still stranding runners in scoring position. What did they go 3 for 12, 3 for 11 today?
3 for 12, left 11 on base.
That's what I mean. So it's like, again, if you have this 8-run barrage because of the defensive miscues, what's going to happen in Minnesota tomorrow? Like, is this actually going to carry over? Who knows? Because we saw the offense not carry over after that 10-run barrage in Miami or whatever. And then back at Citi Field, they had another 10 runs, and then they disappear.
Even in this game, I mean, they have 7 in game 1 and then 1 in game 2.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Next day
like,
it goes away.
And I understand you're facing different pitchers. I get that, but again, you just need some kind of point of consistency. Someone's got to take that initiative. It's again, it's an 8-0 that I'm like, okay, well, most of it was gifted to us. And I hate I hate sounding like the guy who's like, oh, well, this win was fake. But what I'm saying is, it's like there's things out there that are definitely concerning when you see this offense just leave a lot of things on the table.
Yeah, I mean, they still left 8 guys on base yesterday, though. I mean, going 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. So, I mean, it's like we said, even the games where they do well, you're still seeing these same things happen. I mean, game 1, they left 10 guys on base. They went 2 for 14, yet still scored 7 runs. So, I mean, and there was a lot of errors on the Athletics' part in that game as well. So, it's just been happening every single day where they're really struggling with runners on base. And what is very strange is that, going into this game, they are bottom 5 in runs per game, and that's with having your 10-run outbursts, your 7-run games.
Yeah,
they were still one of the bottom in runs per game. So that's just showing you that, like, even with those great games, they have so many games that are not great that it still doesn't even matter. So just in general, this is not a top of the league offense, even though they're best in the National League East record wise. It's not because the offense, it's because the pitching has been very, very solid. And that was a big thing for me. I said in the last episode was, okay, pitching's been very good, but you've been facing the Marlins mostly. What happens when you face this hot Athletics lineup? And they held up today. I mean, Sanger was awesome. So I think that, for the most part, the pitching has been very solid. So I do love that part of it. But the hitting, I mean, it's been going on with particular guys, and they're showing how top heavy the team is right now. I mean, you have most of the production coming from the top 3, and then sometimes Nimmo, and then after that, good luck, because a lot of these guys are not coming through with runners on. Beatty, I think we got his first RBI of the season today. So, I mean, hooray, let's throw a parade for that. But most of these guys in the bottom half have just been leaving small villages on, and they were saying the hope is that, McNeil comes back and Alvarez comes back, and that helps it. I sure hope so, because the thing is that Luis Torrens has actually been the Mets' second best hitter this season. I mean, maybe you could throw Juan Soto in that mix, but Luis Torrens has just been really fantastic this stretch of the season so far. So it's like, will Alvarez outplay what Torrens is doing right now? Like, I don't think that actually makes the lineup better. In the long run, it does. But right now, that doesn't really help the lineup. The swap of McNeil for Beatty and Acuna, it better help, though. I mean, that's the one I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think at some point it's all going to even out, because I don't think that the offense is going to be this bad, but I don't know what the means are really going to be. In here, my guy Evan from Rangers Central saying there is no identity with this offense at all, other than that being consistently inconsistent. And I think that definitely goes to show it's very true that, I feel like, you just got guys getting their reps in right now, and some of them just look like they're continuing to be, in this, spring training mode, to be honest. Like, I'm really still seeing some spring training mode where, looking at a lot of pitches, when they're working counts, there's a lot of uncompetitive swings along with it. Like, there's just a lot of inefficient types of ways to play baseball. And it's tough that I'm saying that from a 10-5 team. Ricardo's saying that, Carson, it's not fake. You're going off of what you're watching. This is crap hitting minus Pete. And Pete didn't really do much of hitting in these last 2 games. So I think that, again, when it comes to this offense, I just am seeing a lot of bullets to get there. Like it seems like this offense was designed to be quite a mashing team, designed to do a lot of damage. And then from the bottom of the lineup, you have a lot of tools to wreak havoc for the top of the lineup. And we're just not seeing that. We're just really just seeing some spurts of it in and out. And it's just not really like, flowing as much. And listen, I think it's just, I have my thoughts of like what is going on here. I think we all know what my thoughts are going on here. But again, that is a completely different conversation. But it's just, it all gets hidden by, these outbursts of, the 7 to 8 runs. But again, like there's play that they have here, that they're showing right now. That's just not great. It's not great baseball. And listen, I think, in the chat right now, my buddies from Ranger Central here, Evan and Matt from Mets Central as well. We've talked about this with the Rangers before, and yesterday they just got eliminated from playoff contention. They started off 12-4-1 because you have overtime losses, and they weren't playing good hockey. They weren't playing at all, and we continued to point it out, and everyone got on us for saying that. But again, like things regress to the means. Teams figure you out. Like there's things that reach the surface because it's a long season. And, again, it's just things that I'm seeing where I'm like, okay, great, you're getting the wins, great, you're holding it off, but they got to figure out how to clean some of this stuff up, because you can't play this sloppy against teams like the Dodgers or even the Braves. I know they're in last place, whatever, but I'm taking it with a grain of salt. The Phillies, you can't do this against all of these good teams who you're going to be competing with. The A's, not that great of a team, even though they have talent on that team. The Marlins are not great either. We know they're not. So again, it's the quality of the teams that they are playing right now that I think is really keeping them afloat right now. I'm not trying to say that they're like, they're a horrible team. What I'm saying is it's just, there's a lot that I'm seeing that is just very concerning. It's very concerning baseball. And it's just, again, I'm not expecting them to be October ready in the month of April, but there is some things where you're like, okay, these guys need to like get this thing going in order for this to go smoothly. And you expect a little bit more because I'm not trying to kill the entire pitching staff by June. Like I'm just not trying to do that. Either way, I do want to recap a few things from this series, and then we'll get into some of your comments in the chat. But one other thing that I do want to point out before I get into that, what's it say? What was this? This. Matt saying, I will say this, some of the ABs were better in terms of driving pitch counts up. They did it with Sears and Sevy's pitch counts today, but they were lacking the big hits. And that really has kind of just been the story so far with the offense of just not doing well in these situations where you're able, you're able to either work counts or able to just overall put the ball in play or overall hit line drives, just do things situationally. And, I don't know if it's a lack of focus. There is some bad luck in theory right now with this team that we will get into of, who's due and who's not in this lineup, because obviously the offense is going to have to produce, and the best way for them to produce is through, the power and the quality of contact, as, Frank About Sports in the chat. I don't know if that's your clone, said that we're ranked 21st in home runs overall, just extra base hits and all stuff like that. Again, it's like this offense is built a certain way. They can use the margins somewhat when the offense isn't doing well. But it's a very in and out type of thing. And like we've said, 0 to 100 many times. Either way, I do want to recap this series.
Just one more stat. Sorry. The Mets are ranked 18th in total runs scored. However, they have allowed the least amount of earned runs this season, all of baseball, at only 34 runs. Next best is San Diego Padres, who've been off to a great start as well, at 42 earned runs. So that's where their plus 20 differential comes from, is because they're barely giving up any runs. So you just have a better differential that way.
Yep. We saw that a lot from the Mariners last year because of them winning a lot of 1-0 games, 2-1 games, obviously. And of course, pitching can definitely help you, but you definitely see some of these teams in the National League that you're matching up against. They got big bats, and there is no way to beat those big bats without having some big bats of your own. And we do have those at the top of the lineup. We know can perform, but right now we're just not seeing it. But other than that, speaking of this series that we had against the Athletics, who have no city name. Even though they play in the city, in the state capital of California in Sacramento, very weird situation there, as we all know. If you know about it, you know about it. If you don't, you don't. But other than that, let's recap this series. Now, as for Game 1, Griffin Canning would make his third start of the year and work around base runners all night, but the A's would get to him and plate some runs in the 6th and knock him out of the game. Reed Garrett would come in relief, walk the tightrope, walking back-to-back batters, but he would limit the damage to close the book on Canning. 5 1/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts on 86 pitches. Ryan Stanek and AJ Minter would both follow it up with easy 1-2-3 innings in the 7th and 8th. On the offensive side, Brandon Nimmo would open up the scoring in the 2nd with a solo homer to make it 1-0. Luis Torrens would add to the lead on an RBI double to make it 2-0. Pete Alonso would stay hot in the 5th and drive in Juan Soto on an RBI double to make it 3-1. And in the following inning, Alonso would drive in another on a sacrifice fly to score Siri to make it 4-1. Starling Marte would add on 2 more to the lead with an RBI double to make it 6-1. Fast forward to the 8th, Pete Alonso would give the Mets a 7-4 lead with his 4th home run of the year and his 18th run batted in across the first 13 games of 2025. And that homer would end up being a massive one, as Edwin Diaz would come in for the 9th, and he was awful once again. More on that later. A leadoff walk to Lawrence Butler, a 1-out walk to Tyler Soderstrom, and an RBI double by Shea Langoliers, and a sacrifice fly by J.J. Bleday to make it a 1-run game. But Diaz would bend and not break, getting Jacob Wilson to ground out to finish off a close call win in Game 1, 7-6. Game 2, David Peterson would start and toss 6 innings of 2-run ball and 5 strikeouts, walking no one. Worked around some base runners throughout the game, but those 2 runs would come across in the 4th. Jose Budo would pitch the 7th and the 8th, would get 6 outs, but not before allowing a run in the 7th. The Mets offense would threaten all game, but continue to struggle to cash runners in. Their only run would come off the bat of Brandon Nimmo, who would blast his 2nd home run of the series and his 4th of the year. The Mets would get hits from Vientos, Beatty, Taylor, and walks from Lindor and Soto, but strike out 10 times as a team, going 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. They would threaten against the A's flamethrower closer Mason Miller with a 2-out single that would advance to 2nd on a wild pitch by Tyrone Taylor, but Luis Torrens would ground out to end it and for the Mets to drop Game 2, 3-1. Game 3, Kodai Senga would make his 3rd start of the year and was very efficient, striking out just 4, but tossed 7 scoreless innings on 79 pitches. The Mets offense would be pretty quiet against their old friend Luis Severino until the 6th. Luis Torrens would open up the scoring with an RBI single to make it 1-0 Mets. Following a lead-off hit by pitch to Tyrone Taylor and a bunt single by Luis Angel Acuna, Francisco Lindor would add to the lead with a RBI double to make it 2-0 after intentionally walking Juan Soto and walking Brandon Nimmo. Mark Vientos would draw a walk with the bases loaded to make it 3-0. And after a 1-out triple by Tyrone Taylor the next inning, the A's would balk in a run, which did not look like a balk whatsoever, but the Mets would be ahead 4-0 in the 8th. Mark Vientos would drive in Brandon Nimmo on an RBI double to make it 5-0. Luis Torrens would drive in Mark Vientos after Seth Brown would misplay a fly ball in center field to make it 6-0. Brett Beatty would follow it up with an RBI triple to make it 7-0. Tyrone Taylor would reach on a fielding error by Jacob Wilson to drive in Beatty to make it 8-0 Mets. AJ Minter would toss a scoreless eighth with a strikeout. Max Kranick would toss a 1-2-3 ninth to finish off a Game 3 victory in Sacramento. The Mets are now 10-5 on the season, and with that win today, winning their 4th consecutive series and 4 of 5 series so far this season, 15 games in. But other than that, there was a lot of takeaways from this series, of course. We already talked about a little bit. I do want to get into you guys in the chat in a little bit. But Frank, I will go to you. Again, like we've said, the offense spotty, up and down, the pitching holding strong. Still a few defensive miscues too. Like we've probably said throughout these 15 games, not pretty, but they got the series win.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been the theme of the season so far. Not pretty, but get the series win. And that's how it's gone in almost all of these outside of the opening day series against Houston. But like you said, have won 4 straight since. So I think one of the other things that was pretty key in this series is not having Jesse Winker make any starts. He had not been feeling well. He had the one pitch hit at bat, grounded out. But I think not having him definitely hurts this offense, no doubt about it. Because one thing I was looking at is obviously still very early, but you're looking at something like OPS plus. The only guys that are above league average is Nimmo, Torrens, Soto, and Alonso. The next closest is Winker at 98 and then Marte at 92. So not having one of your top 5 hitters this season affects your lineup when the rest of your guys have just been so far below league average. I mean, you have Taylor and Sear in the negatives, Brett Beatty's negative, Mark Vientos at 20. I mean, like these numbers, they shouldn't even be real, but it is still. I mean, they have not gotten it up. So not having Winker, that definitely was unfortunate too, especially considering the way it went in game 2, starting Marte making the start, and he just was absolutely brutal. So you feel like if you have Winker in there, maybe you have a little bit better of a chance. So Marte was 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts in that game. So you really would like to have Winker there. But I just feel like that's kind of what they're at with this bench. And then in today's game, you had Vientos DHing, and we talk about how much Beatty and Acuna have struggled. So you have both of them make the start. And it's like the fact that they were still able to end up with 8 runs is, like you said, there was some luck involved, no doubt about it. But I definitely think that was pretty interesting to me. And then one more thing is that another bad outing from Diaz. Like, he was lucky that the Mets scored 7 runs, because if they didn't, he came into like a 1-run game or a 2-run game. That was a blown save. So, I mean, this is now a few outings in a row. He has just not been sharp at all. So, I mean, he definitely was fortunate the Mets gave him enough of a cushion to work with. But that is something that is to be considered. And then at least we saw Max Kranick today, and he still is phenomenal. Yet to walk a batter this season. I mean, how about that coming from this Mets bullpen? That is just still an amazing story. And I wonder at what point he does. If he continues to pitch as well, he's got to move into high leverage at some point. I mean, that's kind of how we felt with Daniel Nunez last year. I mean, when the guy is this effective, you got to put him into some different situations. He can't just strictly be a long relief pitcher, especially considering that he doesn't walk anybody. I mean, they've had Reed Garrett in that role of a guy that comes in with runners on. And while Reed Garrett has great strikeout stuff, so it works, he also could lose the zone a little bit and could walk some batters too, so that's a little risky. But I feel like somebody like Kranick, who attacks the zone, he's someone that you could use with runners on base. And then he's just been so lights out that I feel like you could use him later on in games if you needed to. So that's something to really keep an eye on. I really want to know when Nunez is actually going to get here, because, I mean, this has been half a month already. He's been working in the minor leagues. So I really want to see him soon, because if things are continuing the way it is, they might have to do their yearly, take Diaz out of the closer role for a little bit, let him get his confidence back up. And if he's coming out of the closer role, well, who's going in? So that's why you'd really like to have Nunez, someone else you trust late in games that could do it. And if not, I mean, maybe Kranick could be one of those guys too, because he's just been that good so far. So I mean, those are some of the things that are not to be unnoticed, even though they won the series, but finding out what the status is of Winker when he's feeling better, because he basically technically missed the whole series, so that was pretty frustrating. And we're going to get to injury point later on, but there's another guy that might be going on the injured list. So now your bench that wasn't already versatile to begin with is also very short-handed. So I think that there is still some things that they have to figure out as far as roster construction. And then they also have to figure out what they're doing with the rotation. They want to add a sixth starter, yet they don't know who they want that sixth starter to be quite yet. So there still is just a lot of question marks as far as how this roster is going to look as they're getting ready for this big trip of a bunch of games consecutively.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know that the Mets are still playing not at full strength at this current moment. There are, there's weight that has to be pulled from both sides, whether it is on the hitting or the pitching. We know that, Nunez, they're still waiting for him to come back. Right now the bullpen has been very, very solid. So, Evan's saying here in the chat, saying Nunez has a 5.4 earned run average in AAA right now. I think they want to take their time with him. I'm sure that they do. I don't think that they're really looking at the results at all, but it's again, like, if he's healthy, he's healthy. We know that what he is capable of, so we will see. I mean, listen, they're shorthanded as of right now, not just in the pitching department to piece things together, because obviously they're down 2 starters, plus Blackburn, if you want to count him as a starter. So if you're adding a 6th starter to this rotation, and we'll see who that 6th starter ends up being, for this homestand. So we'll probably end up talking about that next episode. But I think, when it comes to everything in this rotation, I know that a lot of Mets fans were a little questioning the situation with Canning. What was it in game 1 when they kind of left him in a little too long? We know that once he gets to that, once he has gotten to like that 80, 90 pitches,
inning, or 80 some pitches.
Yeah, 80, 90 pitches.
A total wall, and it's so weird. Because
to be honest,
rolling, he can go out.
To be honest, I'm going to tell you right now. He didn't look good like that entire start. He was leaving so much over the plate. To be honest, he was getting, he was getting what he needed to do. He was going through and getting quick outs. But there was a lot of, at some point, someone was going to go after him. Someone was going to make contact and was going to go over the wall, or, there was going to be some extra base hits there because he was just not locating properly. We know that, the fastball usage has gone down with him because that's kind of just been the adjustment for him. But, it's just the overall command of the zone was very odd. He was kind of struggling a little bit to get some chases as well. But, again, it was whatever. Matt's saying, I didn't love his outing. I didn't think it was horrible. A lot of pitches left over the zone. Like I said, got a lot of defensive help behind him. Very Peterson-esque start. Yeah, Peterson also was struggling to miss some bats in that 4th inning, but overall turned in a decent start as well. But
listen, yeah. I think this is a lineup where it's just tough to miss the bats. I mean, they're aggressive. They're going after it, especially somebody like Jacob Wilson. He's going up there and swinging. Yeah. So like they are going to put the ball in play. As far as what happens once they do, I mean, that remains to be seen. I mean, and like you said, there were some like, Soderstrom, he had like some hard lineouts and just there were a few that you were like, oof. That definitely was a close one. They just got away with it. But with Canning in this particular start, the way they went about it was at the time in the 6th inning, they were up 6-1. So they're like, oh, well, we've had so much trouble with our starters giving us volume. With this kind of lead, I mean, surely he could get us, at least another inning or so, but he couldn't. So they did try to push it because of... It was like if the other starters had been going deeper into games, I'm sure they'd be much more okay with, okay, you gave us 5 innings of 1-run ball. Awesome. Let's go to the bullpen. But because they've had to use the bullpen so much already this season and they had a decent lead, they felt like this was an opportunity to push a little bit. It didn't work out. And this is why I've kind of been saying, but I feel like Griffin Canning might have to end up in the bullpen if he's not going to be working deep into games anyway.
And that's fine.
It's kind of,
and that's fine if that happens.
It defeats the purpose a little bit.
I mean, we know that we have a huge chunk of our starters innings that we are expecting to get from Sean Manaea whenever he comes back. Montas, we know, threw a lot of innings last year, and he's been up and down with innings total. But, you know, we're missing a decent amount of innings that the bullpen is not, you know, at this current moment. At this current moment, they do have a decent amount of depth as to where they have multiple options that can eat these innings and piece this thing together, which is great to see, you know, a oiled machine, a more of an oiled machine under somebody like David Stearns, as to where sometimes, you know, with the Mets, you know, in years prior, where they have like two reliable pitchers and then you cross your fingers and toes with the rest of the bullpen or the rest of the rotation. I think right now, with Canning, it's all really just about him, you know, giving us a leeway to the bullpen as to where, you know, he can put it in a position for the bullpen to go through. We know that the Mets have, you know, we know that the Mets have Canning here. And they also have some other guys in this rotation. David Peterson has seemed to be capable to go 6 innings. But again, it's all really just about staying between the 5 and 6 inning mark with these starters. Like, that's literally it. And especially with how this bullpen is kind of formed at this current moment, they have multiple guys that can go multiple innings. So again, I'm not really panicking in that sense. But again, it can't just happen so many times day after day. It didn't happen in this series. We got 7 from Senga, 6 from Peterson. 6
from Peterson. Yep.
6 from Peterson. So
and
again,
also
it can't happen on multiple days because, you know, we know that some of these multiple relievers, such as Jose Budo, we don't know what the workload with Kranick because he doesn't have much of the experience. It's always just like, you know, if he pitches 2 innings, he needs 2 days of rest, you know, like that type of thing. So it can't happen multiple times where guys are struggling to get out of the 5th inning, or, you know, because if they throw a pitch in the 6th, I'm confident. They throw a pitch in the 4th, adding it up in total in the series, then I'm, you know, they throw a pitch in just the 5th, like that's when I'm getting a little bit nervous, because those innings add up and that workload adds up, even though you have 3 long men in that bullpen.
Yeah, and one of the things too is that since they were the away team in the second game that they lost, they didn't have to pitch the 9th inning, so that's 1 inning that you lose there. And then Brazoban and Danny Young both didn't pitch in this series. So Brazoban is one of those guys you mentioned as far as someone who could go the multiple innings. And even for Kranick, he only did 1 inning in this last game, so he is no your multi-inning guys. The only guy that really had that role in this series was Budo, that did the 2 innings in the second game that they lost. He threw 29 pitches in total, and this will kind of fit like, you know, a couple days off. And then I feel like Brazoban's probably due to pitch in this Twin Series for sure. So we'll see how that goes. But if they do add that 6th starter, who's the guy that goes down? Is it Brazoban or is it Danny Young? I feel like it should be Danny Young, but you never know. But because the options thing, they really want to like milk it as much as they can, but we'll find out.
Yeah, it seems like AJ Minter is getting into a solid swing. So if they're only going to have 1 lefty in that bullpen, we know that we have obviously David Peterson as a left-handed starter here. So again, it's really not something that I really give a shit about with the lefty righty. To be honest, it's basically just get me outs and get those get those chases or whatever. But again, with all of your long inning guys being right-handers, I don't see Danny Young surviving the next time they make a bullpen transaction or a starter transaction, because I think Danny Young's going to be the one that goes down for Blackburn. That's going to be the next transaction. But if it doesn't end up happening, it doesn't end up happening. I don't see Nunez joining us just yet, but eventually he will be here. But, you know, I don't have any sources on that.
Yeah, and the other thing too is Minter is not even being used in a traditional like facing lefty role. I mean, in the 2 games he pitched this season, I would have to look at it. I'm pretty sure it's most of it, but most of the times he comes in, it's in the 8th inning as to throw an inning, regardless of if he's facing right-handers or left-handers. So even the one lefty they have, he could do it. And so even the one lefty they have, they're not using him in like, oh, there's a lefty, let's go to our left-handed pitcher. They're just using him strictly as like, no, he's basically the setup man for Diaz. So that's the role he's been in, and that's why, like you said, with Young, he's not even used to face lefties either. He's just kind of there as the last guy in the pen.
Yeah, he's there because he pretty much exists. Even though he's had some decent, but it was the last 2 outings were okay. Like he's fine, but he's not.
When you're already losing.
He's fine when you're already dead in the water and nobody's watching. But I think there was a lot of talk as well on the broadcast where they talk about. Gary, Keith, and Ron, they talk about, the Mets kind of bringing back, the sinker and bringing back a lot of the soft contact and, just administrating outs, not trying to just go innings or strikeouts or anything, just administrating outs. And it seems like that's kind of what they kind of like to do with Reed Garrett. They kind of like to do that with some of these other pitchers that they have in this bullpen. They definitely have a lot of options to, get you a ground ball. And I feel like that's kind of the lefty type of thing, just like etching the matchups and this situational lefty. Getting a ground ball is what they need. They're going to need the defense to actually field the ground balls properly and consistently in order for that to work. But again, I think the one way to look at it right now is they have a lot of good options. It's a good problem to have. I'm hoping that Danny Young is that casualty. I think he's going to end up being. And then also a lot of these guys, they end up DFAing. They end up going back to AAA anyway. We don't usually see them get claimed either way. But we'll see how all of that looks like. Because there might be a roster spot that gets made tomorrow due to a injury to one of our outfielders. That seems to be at maybe an IL level, but we'll get into more specifics right now for that one. Frank, I will turn that over to you with the injury report. Obviously, we know some rehab assignments have also started as well, so I will turn the floor over to you. It's all yours.
Alrighty, so starting it off with Jeff McNeil, Mets second baseman, played 6 innings in his final rehab game for Low A Port St. Lucie this afternoon. He will report to AAA Syracuse to continue his assignment over the next few days. The Mets 33-year-old former All-Star is continuing to ramp up for Major League play after beginning the 2025 season on the injury list due to a minor oblique injury that he experienced during the first few weeks of spring training. Francisco Alvarez, just like McNeil, Mets catcher, finished his final rehab game for Low A Port St. Lucie this afternoon. Mets manager Carlos Mendoza said that Alvarez will travel to New York tomorrow for more baseball activities during the typical minor league travel day on Monday, with a solid possibility to return to the Mets lineup before the month of May begins. The 23-year-old catcher will continue his recovery from surgery that repaired a fractured hamate bone in his left hand, which he underwent in mid-March. Paul Blackburn, Mets right-handed pitcher, threw 1 inning of live batting practice on Friday with High A Brooklyn and will throw another session depending on his recovery from the previous outing. After beginning the season on the injured list due to right knee inflammation, Blackburn is still on pace to return to the big league club before the end of April. Jose Siri, Mets outfielder, left Saturday's game in the second inning after fouling a pitch off his left leg. Siri has been diagnosed with a left shin contusion after x-rays came back negative. His status is considered day-to-day. Mets manager specified that Siri is pretty sore and struggling to put weight on his left leg, leaving an injured list stint very possible, which is what we saw. I mean, when Siri fouled that ball off his leg, he went down and he was laying down. And when he got back up, you could see him really struggling to put weight on that leg. They had to put him on the golf cart, get him out to the clubhouse because that field is very weird. So that definitely is a shame because he really needs his legs because he makes magic happen with his speed. Yeah. So any kind of shin bruise or whatever to be a center fielder, you can't really play through that, you know, and he's not someone that's there for his bat. He's there for his fielding. So you're not going to leave him in as a DH or anything. So he probably needs to go on the injured list because if you don't have a fast Jose Siri, then there's no point in having him.
Yeah, I am getting the impression, and again, I don't have any sources whatsoever, but this is just my assumption. I'm just going to guess that they were willing to play a man down today only because, again, he's a platoon player. He's not someone who's going to be playing every day. We know that Tyrone Taylor is more than capable of starting in center field. And, I think that once they get to Minnesota, if an injured list is needed, and I do think it is going to be needed, especially at the rate that we're going, he's not being able to put weight on it the next day. I think that they are going to put him on the injured list, and we are going to see Jose Azocar be here. Or there could be somebody else, but I do think it's going to be him because he was on the 40-man roster for a long time before being DFA'd because he was out of options, along with Alexander Canario, who was also out of options to set up the opening day roster. And for those of the Mets fans out there, I'm seeing a lot of it on Twitter. Drew Gilbert's not coming up here. It's not going to happen. I apologize. He is still trying to ramp up, still trying to get to 100%.
He's not on the 40-man anymore as a car.
Yeah, he's not. I said he was taken off. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because he was DFA'd. But yeah, Drew Gilbert's not coming up here. He still needs to get some ABs in AAA before he even gets to the majors. And he's currently been playing in Port St. Lucie for the last week. So I don't think he's going to be ready to face major league pitching and make his major league debut this week. So it's not going to happen. So everybody that likes to plug prospects into the lineup just because they exist, that is not going to happen, especially with this circumstance as to where Gilbert is still trying to catch up. And then also we'll get a good amount of AAA ABs. So we'll see how they look at that. As for some other roster moves, like we have said, Jesse Winker was seen as was not really available for most of this series. I'm sure he will be back for this Twins series upcoming. As for this sixth starter stuff, I just we saw something from Mike Puma that Jose Arena is somebody that they're considering for one of those starts. We'll see. We'll see if that's the situation. I don't think it's going to be Paul Blackburn because I just don't think he's going to be ready in that time. We'll talk a little bit more about this next episode, of course, because it is going to be for the homestand to kind of give the extra day to Kodai Senga, who was phenomenal today, by the way. Fantastic outing by Kodai Senga. Not even pitching that much, speaking and with his health. And if they don't need to push it, they don't need to push it. Again, it's the middle of April. The pitching has been good. If you need to hand it off to the bullpen, I am fine with it. I know the starters are not going deep into games right now, but I feel like that was also a factor last year. I think that now we know that 162 games need to be played, and you don't need to go completely full force and empty the tank like the A's have been doing with Luis Severino, where this guy's throwing 110 pitches a day. Pitchers just have to be babied in that way. I know there's a lot of old-fashioned fans who remember that all pitchers used to go 9 innings, and they used the wins were very important. But no, this is a different game. They throw harder, they get injured, they're fragile, just how it is. And if you don't want them to throw hard, tell the batters to not hit the ball very hard. Speed versus speed, am I right? Anyways, speaking of traditional, let's actually get into more of an advanced topic, which I do want to talk about this Mets offense and what to kind of expect going forward, because I know that we have talked about the approach being very flawed. We have seen the Mets with runners in scoring position really fold a lot, and it's been very inefficient to see, and I think that, in terms of the equal production, and the individual production from a lot of these hitters, I think that we have really yet to see a breakout of pretty much anyone besides Pete Alonso. And obviously, when I show you guys these numbers, because there is going to be a lot of numbers that I'm going to flash onto this screen, I do want to specify that, first of all, this sample that I'm showing was before today's game. So it's a little bit skewered. Yes, I know they scored 8 runs, and I'm not giving them credit for the 8 runs. But this was when that graphic was made. For this graphic to be made updated as of right now, it's pretty much completely impossible with how StatCast is updated. But I am going to talk about who is due and who is not in this lineup. And that overall can be discussed with expected metrics. Now, there are 3 different expected metrics that are seen with different elements with these hitters. And the first one that you would look at is expected batting average, which is hit probability, basically factors in exit velocity and launch angle, basically with where the ball is expected to land based on where the fielder is playing. Basically the chance with, and obviously the copy inverse of catch probability. Then there's also base probability, which is expected slugging, which is based off of, a lot of the park factors of where the ball lands as well. Exit velocity, launch angle is in there. And then there is expected weighted on base average, which is xwOBA. Quality of contact is another way of saying that, which is basically all the factors of expected batting average and expected slugging plus walks and strikeouts. So it's basically XBA, and X slugging. That is just for balls put in play. xwOBA is all plate appearances. So it's a little bit more of a dive in of overall quality of contact, putting the ball in play, exit velocity, launch angle. You also get some looks into discipline as well with walks and strikeouts. So I do want to show it here, and maybe it looks a little bit overwhelming here, but I will break it down as much as I can. So here it is of who is hot and who is due and who is not of probability. Now, I am not saying that this is 100% going to happen. It's probability. These are expected metrics. And if this looks like just a complete phone book to you, don't pay attention to it. It's whatever. But obviously, if you're talking
These
about
kids don't know what a phone book is. Those don't exist anymore.
Oh, sorry. If this is looking like a Stephen King novel, I don't know what has a lot of words on it. Yeah. Anyways, hey, listen, you can get those on Amazon. Who knows? Anyways,
there you go.
The top of the top, obviously, to no surprise, Pete Alonso has been phenomenal so far this year. Hitting for average, something that we haven't seen him do that much in his career, kind of typically on that 250 to 260 throughout his entire career. But obviously, he is hitting to a little bit less than expected, which is actually insane to think about, which how incredible that he has been. But usually you underperform those expected metrics when you hit the ball so hard as he has been with how incredible his bat has been this year. Everything that is highlighted in green is guys who are technically joke on joke unlucky in those certain metrics. So when you expect those hits at that certain rate, let's say expected batting average, you got guys like Terens, who's expected to have more hits as of right now to start the season. Brandon Nimmo is in that category. Soto a little bit. Lindor as well. Sanger is in that category as well, even though he has not really had that big of a sample. As for slugging, we do have a little bit more there in overall difference, highlighted in green. Alonso, like I said, expected, underperforming those metrics. That's usually what happens when you have top 5 percentile exit velocities and just overall quality of contact. Luis Terens has had a phenomenal start to the season, has really put the barrel to the baseball fairly well so far in this season, especially was very impressive to see after that forearm injury he had in this series against the Athletics. Nimmo, of course, who has turned into a exit velocity god recently. Soto underperforming with base probability. We have Vientos underperforming with base probability. Again, in terms of quality of contact, which is the main thing that we are looking at, that puts everything all together of if they are underperforming their hitting metrics or not. Alonso, of course, at the top right now in the 99th percentile in expected weighted on base average. And then you just kind of go down the line. Those top 5 there, right there with Nimmo, Soto, and Lindor, which is kind of what you expect. Torrens has been incredible in putting the barrel on the baseball. We'll see how much that sustains. Mark Vientos, of course, he's going to be a little bit lower because of the strikeouts. That's just, they add in the strikeouts with quality of contact. That's just kind of how it is. Starling Marte, we know what he's capable of and what he's been capable of recently. It's been very inconsistent in that way. Hayden Sanger, not a world beater with his bat, but has been able to give us some dinks and dunks, like I said, with the expected batting average. Winker has not really had that many plate appearances, so I'm not going to put it really fully against him, but so far it has not been great. Jose Siri is Jose Siri. It's really hard for him to make contact with the baseball, and these are batted ball metrics, so it's kind of rough for him as for what we're seeing. Luis Angel Acuna, haven't seen much of him so far, but overall has displayed his tools in that way. Tyrone Taylor is Tyrone Taylor. He's just a 4th outfielder. And then, of course, Brett Beatty had a triple today. So that's great. But other than that, we look at what the Mets are right now due for. We know that as the weather gets warmer, balls are going to start flying out. We know that, they are making some really good contact. We know that they are also, I think, top 5 in hard hit rate right now. They are top 10, I think, in exit velocity. So they definitely have those tools, but they're just going to have to put it all together. But I think right now, the factor that we're not seeing, again, these are factors, again, that are not on this, again, which kind of takes it away from it and makes it a little misleading in this way. And Frank, I will go to you. The swing decisions for this team, not great. And once they do kind of dial in that way, then we can start to see some of these numbers regress to the means. I don't know if that's what you agree with. I know these are numbers that you're not very familiar with. I know that a lot of people aren't familiar with these types of numbers, but basically what it's saying is the Mets are unlucky and everything is against him and no one likes us. The Mets they deserve the world right now. But Frank, I will go to you on this, of course, in terms of contact, in terms of power, just overall situational hitting. The tools are there. They have it there. Like, this is a lineup we know can do damage. But again, they're just going to have to find that consistency. They're just going to have to find it somehow.
It is very interesting with some of the guys. Like for Luis Torrens, I mean, when you talk about what we expected going into the season, he's definitely exceeded my expectations as far as how well he's hit. But according to this, he's actually supposed to be hitting even better, which is actually pretty exciting. So that was kind of my point earlier of, as much as I love Francisco Alvarez, I don't think Alvarez quite solves the offensive problem yet because Torrens has been that good. Yeah. But as you go down the list, like, it's encouraging to see that Nimmo's supposed to be better because, we're paying him like $20 million. So you want to see him play well. Soto has not lived up to what people hope for, and he's kind of where he's supposed to be. That's pretty concerning. Lindor is supposed to be much better, which makes sense. I feel like Lindor has just not been as bad as his numbers show. Just like I've said, the kind of ABs he's taken, he hasn't struck out too much. He's putting the ball in play. I feel like he's hitting the ball pretty good, hitting it all around the field. So I like what I've seen from him. I'm glad that Vientos is supposed to be better, but then when you go down to some other guys like I'm surprised Winker is supposed to be worse. Like, that's really concerning because I feel like
limited amount of plate appearances.
It also takes like a while. You said, it's a batted ball metric, and Winker doesn't swing too much to begin with. So I wonder how that kind of factors into this too. But even for some other guys, like you said, it's like for Siri and Beatty, it's like no matter what, they just kind of stink. And then for Acuna, it's been a rough go for him, and to say it's supposed to be even worse is really crazy to me. And while you were looking at those numbers, I was pulling up some numbers on my own. I put one in the chat just for fun. But I was looking at just in general, like, who are the players with the worst OPSs in baseball? And I actually wonder if you could guess who is number one.
The worst OPS in
in
baseball?
all of baseball as far as guys who qualify based off number of ABs.
All right, so it can't be Beatty, right?
No, because Beatty would actually be second worst, but he doesn't qualify anyway, so he's not on here.
Okay, so the worst OPS in baseball.
I'll give you a clue. It's somebody you love.
Wow. So is it Santander? Maybe?
No, it's not Santander.
Santander struggled.
It is a
He
DH.
has struggled.
It is a DH.
It is a
in the American
DH.
League.
Oh, so Jordan?
No,
Is
but
Jordan?
Ranger Central
No?
got in the chat.
Oh.
Jock. Your boy
Jock,
Peterson.
no!
277 OPS in 14 games. He's hitting
No!
070, 0 home runs, 0 RBIs.
Yeah,
And
but
then
we all
my
know
guy
what
Tommy
he's
Pham
capable
is
of.
in
yeah.
sixth place with a 406 OPS, 128 average. So, but Vientos is number 8. So, like, that's not a list you want to be a part of. But
Yeah.
there's interesting, like Correa is number 17 at 48 OPS. There's some interesting names on here for sure. Luis Robert, Max Muncy, Rhys Hoskins. A lot of interesting names on here. Alec Boehm, number 2. Yikes.
Yeah. And again, that really just comes with just April being April, of course. It's not really just much of the environment. It's just like some guys get off to the slow start. Sometimes they don't. But yeah, that sucks. Well, that just ruined my day. Anyways, yeah, Siri hurt and Jock struggling. Yeah, I'm having a rough day. Anyways.
Well, I mean, MAC just brought up Luis Robert. He's on this list as far as guys with one of the worst OPSs in baseball. And
yeah, he's struggling again.
Yeah, and he was not good last year either. He's at OPS of 495, 163 batting average. And like I said, I don't know if this is because the White Sox stink, so he's not trying. But like we said, this is now I mean, it's still so early in the season, but he's not really improved much. So I'm not ready to. And we know it costs a lot to give him up. And I'm like, why would I do that if the guy is not playing baseball at a high level?
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that ends up. He continues to tank the value as he continues to not play well, because as days and days go by. But I mean, either way, it all really just has to do with this team's timely hitting, and they need to find a way in order to dial into, just dial into some of these situations where they have runners on base, and they need to give these quality ABs and try not to pound the ball into the ground so much. I don't know what the Mets numbers are batted ball wise with runners in scoring position, but there is a lot of ground ball stuff. Let's just say that. I could probably look those up here, but again, it's a lot that I think the Mets just look like they just don't look very interested in finishing the job with runners in scoring position a lot. Now, obviously, the Mets are 5th to last with a 64 weighted runs created plus with runners in scoring position, and they are, let's see, they are 3rd in ground ball rate with runners in scoring position, which is not great. But they
especially
are hitting a lot of fly
that
balls
doesn't have
as well.
a lot of speed. So like a lot of those are
That's
double
not
plays
great.
or their fielder's choices. We've seen a ton of fielder's choices. Here's a risk stat for you. Juan Soto is 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position.
Yeah, he is.
So
and I see a lot of
what you want to see.
a lot of Mets fans a little upset about that, which makes sense. Yeah, Juan Soto has not been like phenomenal in any in any facet. Of course, I'm not here to completely I'm not here to completely like go off on him 15 games into the season. Eventually we are going to have to see him perform in that way. M Easy saying, does Soto look healthy and maybe reaching? Saw him shaking his arm.
Do that with his arm too. I noticed that.
I have no clue what it is, but we're going to have to start seeing, the Juan Soto that we expected, because again, he's very key to this offense being batting second. Evan saying here that I'm not hitting the panic button, but it is very frustrating. Again, if we're going to get to a point where this offense just still is just not producing at the way that they should, We're going to eventually have to talk a little bit more deeper into this. But as of right now, we know what this lineup is capable of. And at their very best, hopefully they can find a way to produce. We know that the hitting environments are not fantastic with the weather being colder. But we also are seeing, just some inefficient ways that they are doing things. I'm really starting to, get a little frustrated where we're just still seeing the same thing, adding in Juan Soto, seeing the same thing from last year, where it's 0 versus 100 with this offense, where, they score nothing, they do nothing for six innings, and then all of a sudden they score 9 runs. Like it's really hard to take that, serious in a way where I'm like, okay, this is going to be a consistent offense because you're just beating up on a pitcher or beating up on mistakes. I think, there just has to be a median that they find here. And I'm hoping that it is applied somewhat, or we're going to have some other conversations that I've, hinted about on Twitter, hinted about for a while of some of this thing as a whole, because we're seeing pretty much everybody in this Mets lineup do these types of things. It's not just, one person that's weighing it down, or, Brett Beatty's the issue, or Tyrone Taylor's the issue, or this hitter's the issue. As a whole, as a team, we are seeing the same things happen throughout this lineup for a majority of these games. Staring at strikes, swinging 3-0 sometimes, always in these 0-2 counts, not getting ahead in the count. Fouling off pitches they should be crushing. I mean, we're really just starting to see it's a tedious type of offense right now. And like I think somebody earlier in the chat said, saying that this is just not a fun 10-5 team to watch right now. And it is true. It really is true. And that wholeheartedly has to do with the offense that we had some high expectation for. Hopefully we're having a different discussion in May and they start hitting and they start getting it going. But this is not going to hold up if this is how they're going to do things. And listen, I am 100% a fake fan. They are 10-5. I should shut the hell up. But again, this is going to get them. This is going to come out to get them if they're not going to be playing the way the offense should be playing. And I understand that the pitching is held up, but things regress to the means. Things happen. So it's not like it's going to happen every single time when you get into these games. I just don't want to be in a situation where, in a game they go down 3-0 and all of a sudden they're out of it. They're just completely out of it, and we could just toss the game completely away. We know this team is capable of coming back from a 3-0 deficit or being down by multiple runs. Right now, we just don't really have trust that they can yet. Like, it just has not shown up, especially with the situational hitting. With runners in scoring position, it's just been brutal. It's been one of the worst in all of baseball. And it shows because they're not really cashing many in right now.
Yeah, I mean, they've taken, like we said, advantage of a lot of defensive miscues. I mean, that's been one of the big ways that they've scored, or because of the weather, like they did against the Marlins. I mean, that was a big piece of it too. So it's just very interesting because, like you said, they're 10-5, but with how well they've pitched and how many guys they've left on base, it feels like they should be better though. It feels like
they 100% should be.
Have at least 12 to 13 wins, in my opinion, because they're like. Game 2 of this series they should have won. They definitely should have won at least 1 or 2 more of the Marlin games. So they definitely could have. They didn't, but I just wonder, like, if they're, like we said, if they're doing this well with Soto not getting a hit with the runner scoring position yet, with Lindor hitting a little over 200, with Nimmo not doing great, with the DH is not giving us anything, third base not giving us anything, second base not giving us anything, center field not giving us anything. And still 10-5 with no Manaea, no Montas. Who knows? I mean, it's pretty interesting. Like, you feel like I wonder how this team looks if everybody does click. Like they.
I don't want to play the if game anymore. I want to see it. Like at this point, I don't want to play the if man game. I'm sure Matt and Evan will have a fun time with that. It's just I'm not trying to be if team. Like, this is what I mean. I'm not trying to be that. Like, I know what this team is capable of, and I want to see it, and having to grind out 10-5, it's rough. And I'm not saying that this is an awful team. I'm not saying that. And to be honest, with the defensive miscues, like we have said, the Mets overall defensive run value is actually positive somehow. I'm gonna guess that's probably just overall this. Wow. Huh. Interesting. It's positive as of right now. So again, there could be probably just because there's a lot of there's been a lot of run saving from the catchers and also from the infield, of course, with Lindor being there. I guess I don't know, but they need to find a way to not extend the inning, not put so much pressure on these pitchers, because even though they have been getting out of it, there's been some times where these pitches just get some of these pitches, another like with Griffin Canning, like you said, another hitter in another universe could get a hold of that. So again, like there's things that need to be, there's things that need to be cleaned up. And I'm not saying the praises right now as to what we are seeing. It's almost just like, let's not fall for the fool's gold yet, just because right now we're in a situation where the Braves are 4-11. Like I'm not taking it into account with an 162 game season, and you're going to have to produce a little bit more for what they are doing, because you're not going to see the pitching go 1 to 2 run ball, give you all these scoreless outings, and expect and expect to win. It like you can't just have the pitching go as deep as they are, or the pitching do as well as they are, because there's going to be off nights. And you can't have the pitching, just carrying all the weight of 1-run games constantly. It just can't happen. And to be honest, when people say to me, it's like, well, elite pitching helps. I'm not trying to be the Mariners. I don't want to be the Mariners. The Mariners haven't won shit. Mariners have not won anything. Their offense has been an issue for a long time. It's the main reason as to why they can't elevate themselves into a playoff contender or a World Series contender. They have an incredible rotation. I'll take anybody in that rotation right now. But again, I'm not trying to be a team that's just, we win with pitching. You got to score runs. Someone's going to have to score runs, and you're going to have to do it in some kind of a consistent manner. And I don't want to sit there relying on pitching of guys who, like we've said, hit a wall at the 6th inning because the offense is scoring 1 to 2 runs a game. Like that, it just can't happen. It really can't. And again, it's early, plenty of games to be played, but these certain habits I'm seeing, very similar to last year, where it enables this 0 or 100 offense, which I can't get behind. I really can't get behind, especially where there's a lot of damage that you're leaving on the table. Like, we know that they can be better than this.
And I mean, the thing is that, like, the hitting coach stayed the same. The personnel outside of Juan Soto has stayed the same. And really all Juan Soto has done so far is mostly draw walks. Like we say, as a guy who runs the same position. So, like, if you have the same coach, basically the same team, why would you expect a different result and different kind of offense? Like, it makes sense why they have so many similarities to last year, where it was 0-100. And last year they had plenty of times where they left a bunch of guys on base. It was very frustrating. They just didn't. I mean, they pitched good for the most part, but not quite this good yet.
Yeah. We'll see how it all holds up. Again, I'm hoping that nobody hits a wall too early in the season from the mound as they continue to try to figure things out offensively, because we know with the names in here, with the pedigree in here, Lindor, we know what he's capable of. We know what Juan Soto is capable of. He's one of the best hitters in all of baseball. Pete Alonso, we know what he's capable of. Vientos, we saw what he's capable of last year. Brandon Nimmo, as much as been a little up and down for him recently, we know what he is capable of as well. We know that we have some guys coming back on the way. We have a former batting champion who's already going to elevate us, just like Luis Ariz always does for the Padres with all their World Series championships. And then we're also going to see, our catcher as well. Maybe that helps out, or maybe it makes everything worse. Who knows? Because I don't know. We're winning without him. Look at our record without him this year. So I don't think we even need him back. who knows? But we will see. We will see how that goes. And then, there's also some other young guys. But other than that, with individual performance, I do want to speak about one individual, which some people were talking about in the chat early on. And that, of course, being our closer, Edwin Diaz, who it's been a little bit rough for recently. And I think we always need to do this check-in of his struggles and his ups and downs ever since he has been with the Mets. And listen, I am always in the corner of Edwin Diaz. I always have been since day one. If you've watched our show from the very beginning, you know that my favorite Met is Edwin Diaz, and he will continue to be because I know how good that he can be. And listen, I'm going to show you, of course, with this being an Edwin Diaz segment, I'm going to show you some nerd numbers. It's going to get a little nerdy in here of what we are seeing from Edwin Diaz. And I think it's very simple to kind of point out how he is struggling because, again, the velocity dip, like we are saying, we know that he can reach those heights at some point. We know that he could possibly elevate to that way. But I just, if he can't handle it right now, it's fine. But I feel like right now it's all really about him grabbing the feel for his pitch, because right now, as I would describe this, he's all out of sorts. Now, on the right side of this graphic, we have the location of his sliders and fastballs, and it seems like he's just all over the place, specifically with his fastball. The slider has been a little, I'd say, back and forth, but he's been able to get a decent amount of chases with it. Now, if you were to look at his two pitches, of course, because he has this four seam and a slider, of course, the world-class slider that we talk about all the time for how it grades out, you are seeing characteristics that are pretty much the same from his career year, from last year, from 2025. We know that his fastball does not have this induced vertical break that a lot of fastballs have from his certain arm angle. So he does it basically off of VAA, which is vertical approach angle. I talk about that needing that hovering around 4 from a certain arm angle, and it is way less than 4, 3.6, and it's pretty much the same as it's always been. We're also seeing the stuff pretty much as the same with his slider as well. Maybe a few little tweaks in and out, like a few numbers in and out. But again, this is more of a smaller sample that we're looking at in 2025. So less pitches, less of a sample, more fluctuated, but we're are still seeing that consistency. So the stuff, again, it's still there. And I think that when people talk about, the stuff is just not what it was, the stuff's there. It's just not being shown with velocity. And when he does miss these spots, which I don't think he's really missing spots, I think that he's just not finding a grip whatsoever. And I think it's very easy to see that he's just not finding the strike zone the way that he should be. And when he starts to find the strike zone once again, that's when I feel like the velocity is going to take a little bit more of a tick up. Right now, he does not have a feel for it whatsoever. He's been way too wild. And, at some point, even though technically he has not blown a save, if this continues, we're gonna start to see, some of the brutal stuff that we have seen from Edwin Diaz in the past. And it's been very, very rough with Edwin. He has had a roller coaster of a Mets career, like we have said, the rough 2019, good 2020, but with no fans, 2021 up and down, 2022 phenomenal, gets the big contract, gets hurt, comes back in 2024, gets suspended, gets hurt again. It's been a roller coaster for Edwin Diaz since the very, very beginning. And I feel like every time when we go through this, it's just another chapter in this entire situation with him. And it's going to end up leading back to him because we do know that they're going to be relying on him in the tightest situation because we know that he has the best stuff out of this bullpen. Whether people think, because he's not throwing as hard, he still does have the best stuff it grades out, and the velocity is obviously an added bonus to make it look like even more elite stuff. And we know that, some of these pitches that he's throwing, lower velocity as compared to what we have been seeing. Is it very possible that we're looking at it and we're just like, okay, maybe Diaz is just not the same. He really just isn't the same pitcher that he was in 2022. And if he didn't have that injury in the WBC, maybe things would have been different, because we know that even though it was not an arm injury, he needs that knee to push off of to get that sort of leverage. And it's always just been a lack of feel. Last year, we were seeing him hang sliders. We were seeing him lack of command of the zone, obviously some control issues. Right now, I just feel like he's just having issues throwing strikes. Like, that's literally right now what I'm seeing. He's just not getting that feel for what we know he can be capable of, because when he does get that right spot, the man's going to get a ridiculous amount of swings and misses. He's a huge strikeout pitcher, and it's not coming to him right now. And it's been very rough to see. And I think it's not going to, again, it's not going to help, even though, we got in trouble talking about the New York. It's not going to help with that type of pressure, of him going in there. Is it possible that if this continues, he's going to have to be removed from the closer role and somebody's going to have to take over? Maybe. I'd rather it happen now than in August or September. But Frank, I know that from what you are seeing, every outing's been it's been rough. It has been very, very rough for Edwin Diaz. We've talked about this every year. We go through this every year. So for those of you who think that he's going to be, traded or gotten rid of, it's not going to happen. This is your $102 million reliever. It's been rough. I know it is. But again, they are going to trust him in the ninth inning because he still does have that best stuff. He has no confidence in it right now. And maybe he does need to step back if this continues.
My thing with Diaz is it looks like things are getting worse as the season progresses. I mean, what I find very fascinating is that you're looking at his first 3 outings, didn't walk a batter, didn't hit a batter. Then in his 4th outing, when he faced Toronto, he hit 2 batters. And since then, in his last 2 outings, he had 2 walks in each outing. So it's kind of like I say with Diaz, but it's like you kind of know what kind of outing it's going to be right away within the first batter or so. Because once you see the ball go into the backstop, or like you see some of those 4-seam fastballs just like way too high, then you know that it's going to be quite an adventure as far as what is going to happen. So it has been very concerning to watch. It's frustrating to watch because it is the 9th inning. It is so important and in high leverage. So it's like, you stay up till 1:30 in the morning watching the game and you're like, oh, the Mets are going to win. And then Diaz comes in. You're like, oh my gosh, if he blows this is going to stink. Like, much more than it normally does because you get so hyped up, like, oh, Mets are up 7-4, like, we got this, and then all of a sudden it's 7-6 and you're like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? So it has been concerning that he got off to a decent start, but then it's been pretty bad the last few outings, and I haven't seen improvements yet in these last 3. So there needs to be some sort of change. If that's like you said, mechanics, if it's confidence, whatever it is, he's got to do something. Like I've said, I mean, I don't know how much longer he could stick with the 4-seam and slider mix. I feel like if you're going 102. Fine, but if you don't have 102, like I said, I know you're not going to do it in the middle of the season, but I really wish he would consider adding something else to that mix because, maybe he'll have something he has a little more control over that he could get over, because there was one outing in particular, I don't remember which one it was. It was one of these last 2, but he was behind in the count. He threw a slider and the batter didn't swing. It was right down the middle, but it was like the biggest helicopter get me over slider maybe that I've ever seen him throw. Like, it was like slow motion. It got over the plate just to get a strike, and if the batter had swung at that thing is probably still in the air. So I feel like it for him to have to do that in order to get a strike, that really tells me where he's at right now, where he just doesn't have confidence that, like, if he needed a strike, he can't get it. Like, with a lot of pitchers, you would hope that if they needed a strike, they would go to the fastball, not the slider. So that definitely is just not a good sign for me, because with Diaz is at his best, he's able to have some kind of a plan out there and put the fastball in specific spots to set up the slider as the put away pitch. So he hasn't been able to do that yet. The walks are a massive issue, because if you walk one guy and they see you don't have your best stuff, they're not going to swing. Like, they're going to just let it happen.
Unless you're the Mets.
Unless you're the Mets, yeah. The Mets are the only team that'll bail you out. Since he's not facing his own team, these other teams are just going to get the guys on base, and then the big swings happen when you have to compensate because you're falling behind at the count. So it's just a recipe for disaster when you're a pitcher.
Yeah, I think right now it's been very, I'm not trying to say it's fastball heavy, but in 2022, the biggest success was obviously that slider, which no one could touch whatsoever. He was using the slider at a 58% rate. So again, if they need to go, inside out, where first pitch is slider, second pitch is set up the fastball, and then, a few other fastballs, because it just seems like every single time he's going out there, first pitch fastball, missing glove side. Like he really just, it's so, he can't get ahead in the count because he's just so wild. I don't know if he's trying to overthrow it or he's just not, he just has no feel for it whatsoever, but he just continues to get behind in the count. And that has to do obviously with his just overall control, because we know that, when he does locate properly and when he has, the good glove side and the good arm side slider, the razor blade slider, as we all like to call it, the gyro cutter, or whatever you want to call it, that's kind of how he sets these things up and how they tunnel properly. And it's kind of just like that late drop of two different directions as to where the slider is the cutter. It's the main reason as to why we talk about him being a two-pitch pitcher. And if you were to add in, from experience, if you add in another pitch, again, it just doesn't, like his slider is kind of a cutter, a changeup, and a slider at the same time. So it's really hard. You're going to have to reinvent so many different things for him, because, again, things need to tunnel in that way. It's the best way to get chases. Obviously, the best way to get chases with him is with that slider. So maybe it's just more sliders than fastballs. But again, he can't just be throwing sliders and not be able to control the fastball. I don't know if it's just the overall confidence of just being behind in the count and he's just overcompensating and overthrowing. But like I've said, I think it was last episode, it really was rough for him. It's really rough because usually he works so quick, and he's just dialed things in and slowed things down, which is fine, again, because you don't want to rush things. But I feel like there's just such a lack of rhythm, just like typically from that first pitch he throws. And he's just already, okay, well, here's the mess. Here comes the mess. And then it just becomes a 4-pitch walk. He hit 2 batters in the game that I went to, and he hit 2 batters in that game. Like, it's just, I feel like it all, like we've said, like by the first pitch, we know what's going to happen here. And that's not great. Like, that's not good. Because I'm pretty sure that first pitch he threw against Houston in his first ever outing, strike in the top of the strike zone, 98-mile-an-hour fastball. So again, the velocity I know is still there. I know that he's going to be able to hit the high 90s. Like Matt is saying, I know the velocity is down, but I don't think that's a big issue. And that's the thing. I think he still can be effective. It's the lack of mechanics and control he can fix, and that he can fix. And it's all really just about the overall location of these pitches and the overall sequencing that is just, it's just not like he's just not finding that connection. And we know that he's better than this and he can figure this out. But I feel like it's all really just about like just grabbing his footing again. And I don't know when that comes. But again, it really just has to do with not walking guys. And that's pretty much, it's just, he just really is all over the place. And it's specifically with the fastball, and it maybe will just have to be slider usage. They're going to have to bring it up, but there's going to have to be a different type of sequencing here, or something. I'm not here to completely panic or anything. I think eventually it will be figured out. But right now, when you're in these tight games, the offense not hitting consistently, because they have hit in some games, but they're not hitting consistently. These are going to be 1-run games that he's going to be coming into, 2-run games he's going to be coming into, and there's not going to be a 7-4 solo shot from Alonso that saves you every single time. Because even though we would love to see that, even though we would love to see Alonso, expand the lead and homer in all 162 games, it's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. So again, he has gotten lucky that he has not been able to have as much damage. But right now we are seeing a house of cards situation. And it's got to be figured out somehow, because we know what he is capable of. We know what he's able to do. And at some point, adjustments are going to have to be made. I don't know when it's going to be solved. That's the scary part for me.
Yeah, and like you said, if the Mets, like today, they scored 8 runs, you're not seeing Edwin Diaz. The days when they score 10 runs, you're not going to see him. So it's like the times when he does pitch is when they're up by a lot. And maybe they should actually consider not the reverse, but if he hasn't worked, and they did try to do that in the one it was against Toronto. It was like that game. There was one. No, I'm sorry. It was the game against Miami. So his last outing before the A series, where like, he hadn't worked in a while, so he said, okay, we'll bring him in, and he was awful. So, maybe they do have to consider some more of those, just because what happens, like you said, he needs to figure it out, and I don't want him to figure it out while being in close games, because then you're going to lose those close games.
Yeah.
So I want him to sort it out if it's in low leverage, but just so that when he is time to get back into high leverage, he's ready to go, and it's going to be good. Because it's like, if you want Edwin Diaz to be your closer, you want the good version of Edwin Diaz to close the game.
Absolutely.
Not the bad one. So I feel like they might have also changed the way they utilize him. And, with how this bullpen has performed so far, with how, like I said earlier, but how, obviously Cranksman, but, Minter, Stanek, like most of these relievers have been very solid. Reed Garrett, like a lot of these guys have been good enough to where if they had to take Edwin Diaz out of the close role for a little bit, I feel like they could still survive. When Edwin Diaz got suspended last year, and you had Nunez and Budo, they got the job done. Like, they handled it. So I feel like this bullpen in particular, with how good this rotation has been as well, I feel like if they had to explore with that, they could pull it off. So I feel like it's worth it, because I just don't understand why you would like wait to use them till you're in a safe situation, and then you end up losing the game. Because right now, you look at it, guess who has the highest ERA in the bullpen, and it's not even close. It's Edwin Diaz. So it's like he's supposed to be like the lowest, not the highest. Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Again, I think that also some things that also add into another factor that I feel like we also ignore a lot with Diaz, just because of how explosive his stuff is and how many strikeouts he's able to get. But again, when he puts these runners on, it's hard for him to hold them. He's not great with them. He's not great. He's not, what's his name? Syndergaard bad, but he's close. He's very close. They run all over him. And obviously with, the types of
wild pitches too. And like,
he's all over the place. Like, that's the thing. That's the thing. He needs to dial in, and he needs to get, the feel for these pitches, and who knows how that happens.
4 wild pitches this season.
4 wild pitches this season, and he had 3 last year and 2 in 2022. So again, I feel like right now it's looked at as a control issue. If there's something else that pops up as the season goes along, because again, he has had 6 outings right now. I feel like the last time we talked about Edwin Diaz's struggles, it was like 12 outings in or whatever. Like, I'm not panicking yet, but I'm really, it's getting very tedious to watch him on the mound just struggle from the gate from the first pitch. And I feel like when you know that from the first pitch how this outing is going to go, it's very alarming, especially when first pitch fastball going to the backstop, he doesn't know where it's going. It's just, especially when you see that first pitch not being even close, like whatsoever, to where it's supposed to be. And it's been very, very erratic in that way. But again, like I said, with the overall stuff, it's still there. It's still there. The characteristics are still there. Even with the velocity down a bit, it's still there. The shape is still there. They know, he has it. But he just, it's just very, I don't know how to say it. It's a very house of cards. Did I already say that? I don't know. It's just a house of cards situation. I think it's just very fragile at the moment, where he's just not really, he's not getting any feel for pitches, and it's not getting better as the outing goes along. Because like we said, that first pitch, it's rough. Now, as for closing out the talk of this series, let's get into some more individual performances. And of course, the only way that we know how, with everybody's favorite segment, studs and duds. One player that played well in this series, we want to give flowers to, one that did not. Frank, I will swing it over to you. Another series win. So who do you got individually you want to give a bouquet of roses? I know there's some people that are allergic to roses, daisies. I don't know. There's other flowers that exist. I don't know.
So the flowers this time will be going to Brandon Nimmo, who hit a home run in the first game of the series and in a one-run game. Very important. He also hit a home run in the second game of the series, which is the only run the Mets scored. And then in today's game, he had a very nice RBI double going the other way, which I really liked, is that it was via line drive. So that was kind of one thing that was concerning me prior to this series, was that Nimmo was hitting the ball to left, but it was like these flyouts, so he wasn't really sure what he was doing, but he pulled the ball, both home runs in this series, and then when he did go opposite field, it was with a line drive. So I feel like the way he's approaching hitting, just looking a lot better, and the Mets need it. I have that cleanup spot, batting right after P. Alonso, who's been awesome all season. Wasn't particularly great the last two games, but was really good in the first game. So, just kind of extending the lineup, like we say. It's like, that if in a perfect world, Lindor, Soto doing their thing, so far Pete's having a great season, there's going to be a lot that falls on Nimmo. Like, he's going to have a lot of opportunities with those three guys in front of him, and they're going to need him to capitalize it in order to make the most out of it. They've intentionally walked Soto in today's game to face Alonso, but, if you have Nimmo really doing his thing, I wonder how many times you think twice about intentionally walking Soto to face Alonso, because then you have Nimmo after him. So it's just kind of those things that, like we say, extending the lineup is what I want to see. So I hope he keeps it up. He still has a long way to go before getting to where he needs to be, as far as like having the Brandon Nimmo season that we know he's capable of at his best. But yes. I mean, so far this was a better series than it's been lately.
I feel like the best way to do that is to have him bat third. I've already talked about this many, many times before. I just like him in the 3-hole better than the cleanup spot. I just feel like it just evens things out and protects things a lot better. I just think Pete Alonso, if you want him to mash even more the way that he is, especially just maximizing this like top 5% type of power that he's displaying, I just feel like it would just be better in the cleanup spot as of right now, because again, it just shortens things out when you know that you have a robotic eye such as Juan Soto batting second. But again, Nimmo was a great series for him. Again, I never have to worry about Nimmo. I know a lot of people have been freaking out about him, but I personally think he's going to be fine as long as that foot holds up. We should be okay. For those of you who want to see him play center field these days, that's not going to happen, because he's just not. he does not have that bolt that he used to have before this whole situation with his foot. So he's going to be in left field. So center field is going to be occupied by some athletic pieces such as Taylor, Siri whenever he comes back. And they're going to see what they can do. But for me, I got to put Kodai Senga in here, because 7 innings, does that ever happen for us? Barely. I mean, we haven't had that happen this year. The first Mets starter to go 7 innings this year. Again, this was a great start for him. Personally, I think there was a few pitches he left over the plate that the A's just missed. But again, I also like the pace that he was working at as well, getting ahead of the count too. It looked like the velo was up as well. So that was good to see. And, even though he only got 79 pitches, I am all for keeping him on the pitch count limit as of right now, after seeing what he went through last year, after how, uncertain it was. I'm okay with it. If you don't need to push it, if you don't need the game, keep it the way that it is. We know handing it off to the bullpen, they have been reliable, and we have multiple options that have been reliable. So that is good. As for duds in this series, Frank, I'll swing it right back to you, who was very disappointing for these 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, I have to give it to Edwin Diaz only because, like I said, to stay up that late for him to almost blow it, it was close, man. I was like about to lose it. I was like,
maybe it was my fault. Maybe it was my fault because I said there's no Drew Smith to blow it on the West Coast, and Edwin Diaz took the honors of that. So, anyways,
but he held on. You know what I mean? That's the main thing, is that he bends but doesn't break. That's happened a few times this season. So at least the Mets offense was able to prevent that from being just an absolute heartbreak, because that would have been very frustrating. So he's my dud for this series.
Yeah, I think he was your dud last series too. So yeah, well,
double the dud.
Yeah, double the dud. He has not looked good, like we said, like we were just talking about, and hopefully that does fix itself. We go through this every year. It happens. I'm going to be completely honest here. Juan Soto stunk in this series. I'm not going to lie, and I'm not saying that I think his career is completely over. We're 15 games into the season, and I know that he's going to come around. But no, this was disappointing. This really was, especially in a minor league ballpark. To right field as well, with those types of dimensions, facing a lot of right-handers. Yes, there was a good amount of walks in this series, but I just expected more, especially with Lindor as well, who was hitting the ball on the ground a decent amount in this series as well, but he was getting on base. And then Juan Soto right after him, ground ball right into the dirt, setting up a double play. Like, I can't stand double plays. I don't like double plays. They destroy every single offense. Even though there's somebody in the dugout that enjoys them. Anyways, I mean, it's just, I expected more. That's it.
Exactly.
I just expected more.
Exactly, because it hasn't been the greatest of starts so far for Soto, not what he's capable of. I mean, we know he's someone that has like 40 home run potential, and so far the season only has 1. And we felt like with the way this ballpark had been playing lately, minor league park, this would be a good time for him to hit another one out. But like you said, he just hit a bunch on the ground. So I guess the Marlins, he popped up a bunch. Now this time he hit a bunch on the ground. So he's not doing the same thing, but both things are not productive and not what Juan Soto does. All that being said, he still does have the very high on base percentage. And I found it interesting that they did intentionally walk him to face Alonso. Like, it's considering how great Alonso's been, how much Soto's been struggling, the fact that he still draws the respect of intentional walks, I mean, that just goes to show you the way teams still feel about him, even when he's struggling.
Yeah. And again, I'm not worried about him right now. But right, I mean, just I just expected a lot more in this series, especially from a A's team that gives up a lot of home runs, and overall, just their pitching's just not great. I don't know. I think it just goes to show, how it's just, I just don't think it wasn't a Juan Soto type series. It just was not, you didn't see that Juan Soto type of impact. And it was kind of disappointing to me. I just did not think he had a good series. It just was not great. But that doesn't mean that I'm completely slandering him. But I'm just saying, from what I saw, it wasn't great. It just was not a great series from him. I almost did put Lindor on here as well, because he was not fantastic. But game 3, he looked to be a little bit more dialed in. Lindor, slow starter, has started off slow. The April stats we can always overreact to. But, listen, I think, if he has another bad series, that's when I'm going to start calling for him to be traded. As Evan is saying that I want him traded. It's possible. It's very possible that does happen. I'm very, very close. Very, very close. But it was just underwhelming. And it looks like Ricardo agrees, saying Soto had a bad series, overthrowing the cutoff man. That was that one play that he did. That was in game 1. Game 1.
I think he also did it today too. A little bit.
Yeah, he may have done it today. And not running out ground balls. I agree. He is the dud. Yeah. Listen, I think, I'm not going to get on him for not, because he saw it as a routine play. But again, you got to run. You do have to run that out. I'm not gonna, you know, as a old guy, you gotta, if you do that again, I'm gonna punish you. But I'm just saying, it's like, it was just, this series, from what I know about Juan Soto, from what he has proven throughout his career, so young as he is, though, he's so fantastic in that way that I just felt like this series, he was just half-assing it. It just really felt half-assed. And it just seemed like the minimum of what Soto can do. And even though it is early and I'm not going to panic, I don't know. I feel like, you know, the Mets offense could have done a lot better in this series, and most of that lands on him a little bit, because he just it just wasn't as productive as we know Juan Soto can be. But again, maybe it happens in this next series, and I think it's time to preview the next one, which will be in Minnesota and be starting tomorrow at Target Field, or the Hefty Bag. Is that what it is now? I don't know. But, you know, again, we will see. But going forward, Mets 10-5 right now, going over to Minnesota, going from Sacramento to Minnesota. Great traveling for the Mets right there. So we will see how they do off the gate there. I think, I'm not sure what position the Twins are as of right now.
The record is not been great.
Yeah, they've been struggling. I know that they have been struggling. I know they're last.
Only the White Sox worse than one game less.
Okay,
makes sense. They're 5.
Okay, so we're gonna end up having another rubber match, is what you're trying to tell me? You know, this team's due. This team is due. Anyways, but other than that, let's get into some of the probables going into this series. Now, as for the starter for game 1 with Minnesota, Zebby Matthews is lined up right now. He is a rookie, young kid, has not really had so much success yet, but he is one of their top prospects. Clay Holmes will get the start for game 1, looking to go deeper than he did last game. We're just trying to progress a little bit with Clay Holmes, and hopefully the defense, even though I've said this throughout 3 starts already, doesn't screw him over. That would be nice. Now, game 2 will go to Tyler McGill. He will face off against Joe Ryan. Great young right-hander. He's got some ridiculous stuff, so that's going to be a tough matchup for this offense. We'll see if they do end up getting going. Tyler McGill, let's not walk the entire ballpark like we did last time. And then game 3 will go to Griffin Canning against Bailey Ober, who is a solid back-end piece that has been for the Twins, but not fantastic. So this is not the hardest matchup whatsoever. Game 1 will be on SNY. Game 2 will be on SNY. And game 3 will be on SNY. 7:40, as we are in Minnesota, with them being an hour behind. 7:40 for game 2, and then 1:10 for game 3. Some things to look out for going into this series. We know that the in Minnesota, it is definitely not the best hitting environment for the beginning of the season, because it is very cold there. We know it's been cold in Citi Field, but it's a different level of cold in Minnesota. So maybe we start to see, I don't know, maybe a few stolen bases. Maybe that would be cool. I don't know. We're facing all right-handers, so even though Acuna is not supposed to play against right-handers right now, we'll see how they kind of, do that and kind of configure that. Minnesota is 26th in slugging right now. So again, it doesn't seem like they're hitting that much for power. I think that they already have Royce Lewis hurt, or I know he did get hurt. He's hurt again. What else is new?
He's hurt again.
We know that they have dangerous hitters in that lineup. It's all about them staying healthy. Correa, I know, has been off to a rough start.
Very rough start.
So, haha. Anyways, and I know that Buxton started off slow as well. So they really
good.
He started off slow. We know that they have a lot of talent in that bullpen. We know that they do. So again, we're going to have to get the starter early. I know this is something that this offense doesn't like to do, but we're going to have to do it this time with the keys to some of the series. We know Griffin Jackson, Yohan Duran are freaking nasty. So the back end of that bullpen, but we will see. Hi, Andrew. How you doing? I don't know what the penguin means. Is it Clay Holmes because he like waddles on the mound? I don't know. That's something I've heard. Yes, that would be nice. Tyler McGill don't throw 4 straight balls to open up the game. That would be awesome. Hopefully it's not 10 degrees in Minnesota. The weather all around baseball has been lousy. There has been a lot of we've dodged them, but a lot of rain delays and rain postponements throughout the Northeast to start the year. So we will see what happens there. This is not a world-beating Twins team so far this season. They are not hot by any means. Don't allow them to get hot. That would be great. But we will see how they fare well, or if they fare not well. Andrew's saying we need a snow game. No, thank you. Even though the aesthetic would be fantastic, I'd like it to be as warm as possible in Minnesota. Frank, what else are you looking at going into this series?
So like you mentioned, the Twins have certainly been struggling offensively, no doubt about it. And in particular, the guys that they expect to be really good. I mean, so Correa, he's hitting 164 going into today. Byron Buxton hitting 167 going in today. And going into today, their leading player in slugging percentage is former Met Harrison Bader, who's hit 3 home runs this season.
Just for you, Frank.
Yeah. But all in all, I mean, he's hitting 225, so it doesn't really say much. It's more so just like how bad the rest of the Twins lineup has been.
He has like 5 homers, doesn't he?
Yeah. He has 3 home runs. I mean, Bader took the 0 for today, so now he's down to 209. So it certainly they have not been great offensively. So, I mean, like you said, don't let them get going. So we'll see here because, like we said, the Mets pitching has been very good. So you want to see that continue against a struggling lineup. And like you said, how the weather is going to affect it doesn't really mean that all of a sudden you are going to see great hitting in all likelihood. But I am very curious to see how they go up against Joe Ryan because he is a very good starting pitcher. So with how much this offense has struggled, I am very intrigued by that matchup to see what they could do. I mean, I'm sure they'll get guys on base, but what are they going to do to get them home? How are they going to hit with runners in scoring position? So that's always the big question, and we'll see what happens this time around. But overall, like we said, they're a 5-11 team, so you got to take advantage. This should be another series that they win. If they sweep, great, but if not, at least get another series win.
Yeah, and then they, of course, get back home where some complications of the starting rotation will be dealt out, but obviously they need to do well in this Minnesota series as well. I'm looking at some of the weather coming up here. It looks like it's going to be in the 50s to 60s in Minnesota, so maybe we see something. I think they're kind of middle of the pack in park factors with their type of ballpark. No, they're actually they're the sixth best hitters ballpark. So maybe you see some more homers in this series. Maybe you don't. But we know that Minnesota, it can get very, very cold no matter what. I don't know if it's going to feel like something, I don't know, around
maybe
that
maybe
time.
by the time it's 6:40 their time. I mean, maybe it'll cool
it might be in
down
like the 40s or 30s. Who knows?
So
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. It looks like it's getting as low as the mid 30s. So we'll see. It'll even out maybe, but we got to see this offense somewhat wake up. We got to see something, and we need to see some consistency somewhat before they return home for that homestand. But other than that, I think that we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Make sure to hit the like button on the stream if you have not already. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you have not already as well. Frank, I'll turn it over to you for some final thoughts going into this Minnesota series, exiting this A's series where they were playing a team that didn't have a city name and they had a ballpark that had a lot of comedy in it. We saw what was it, a mini car. They it ran out of gas or something, and they had to push it. Yeah, this was, and I'm sure, as we all know, my dad's an A's fan. He was having a fun time watching this embarrassment on TV. But anyways, over to you on this one. Keep it going, I guess. Keep the winning ways going, even though they've been up and down.
Yeah, I mean, listen, any series is a great series for Juan Soto to hit a second home run. I like to see that. If Vientos get his first home run, that'd be good. But the one thing to keep in mind as April 13th is closing, this was the day that Tom Seaver made his debut in 1967. It was April 13th, and he struck out 8 batters. So, I mean, that was a great start for him. I remember very well in 1967. So, April 13th, always a good day in Mets history.
Yeah. Obviously, we know that Jackie Robinson Day is coming up, I think, this week.
So
I saw that the Binghamton Rumble Ponies, they were, or the Bathtub Donkeys, that's the shirt I have on, that they will be on later on this year. Binghamton was on. Mets prospect Nolan McLean was pitching, had a really good outing. But I think they had Jackie Robinson's grandson or great-grandson in the booth early on, and I guess he was talking about upcoming Jackie Robinson Day. So again, there's some monumental days in we know we had the big Mother's Day craze with the pink bats and everything. So obviously those fun stuff at the beginning of baseball season, with it still young, 15 games in. But other than that, I think we will wrap it up here. One last thing that I do want to mention before we actually wrap it up. I'm going back and forth here with my transitions, but Severino's comments about the Mets offering the same amount that they were going to give to Frankie Montas, and right now it's not looking fantastic with Frankie Montas on the injured list and Severino pitching and is available and being pretty much driven into the ground for the A's. But he basically said that he was willing to come back on 2 years, $40 million. It's water under the bridge now. Nothing you can do. He's with the A's now. But, it was very interesting to see, I will say, see that, transparency in that way. And I know a lot of Mets fans got a little bit of anger from it. I talked about it where I was like, I did not want to bring back Luis Severino. Just because of just what he can withhold. But it was very interesting to see that in the current context right now, that I think definitely drew some waves and a little bit of controversy as this series started to kick off in Sacramento. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that one.
I mean, listen, we'll see how it goes with the way the workload they've given him, going like over 100 pitches every game. And we know his injury history in the past. He held up really well for the Mets, surprisingly. So I am curious to see how right now he's pitching pretty good though. So I'm very curious to see by the time season's over how this kind of workload affects his body.
All right. Yeah.
It doesn't help that Montas is hurt now just because he got into spring training was hurt immediately. But other than that, I could understand why there was some, hesitancy to give him a not even a long-term deal, but to keep him and just kind of being like, oh, well, we got a good year of him. Let's get the most out of it, get the qualifying offer and everything like that. Maybe, but we'll see. I mean, the A's gave him a good amount of money and they're giving him a heavy workload, yet the results still aren't quite there. I think is he 0-3 for the season, I think, with the win-loss record. Yeah. So that's not great if you're
rough.
Pitched that much and still not winning the games.
Yeah, it's been not fantastic, but he's also in a ballpark that's a launching pad at this current moment. I think he's pitched all those games in there, maybe one on the road. I don't know, but again, we wish Sevy the best. Again, it was a great season that he had with us. He's a great guy. He's an easy guy to root for. And I hope that he does succeed over there. And for A's fans out there, I hope you guys enjoy him, because he is definitely a fan favorite wherever he goes. But other than that, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching, listening. We hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation live in the future, we are always live following every single series of regular season games. And make sure to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel. Turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. And make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok. Follow all of us individually. TikTok, of course, we have Frank's instant reactions to every single regular season game. Make sure to go check those out. And finally, of course, we are going into Minnesota 10-5 in first place in the National League East. Of course, let's go Mets, and we will see you guys next time.